Good afternoon. Welcome to PO 101 American National Government, Week 3. You're marching through the class, and I'm very pleased with your work. And a couple of things, I'll talk about that in just a second. What I want to do is just go over with you, like I've done in the previous 2 weeks, go over the course objectives. When we put together a course like this, all the faculty are required to present those key ideas and lessons that students are expected to really retain after completing the material. So let me go over these with you if I can. 3A, these are in your online classroom under the course content, so you can double check me on these and look to see if there's anything that you need me to go over with you. I'll be glad to do so. For 3A, the first part of this week's lessons, 1, explain the purpose and duties of the judicial branch of the government. 2, identify the jurisdiction of the federal courts. 3, understand the implications of jurisdiction. What does that word mean? What are the limitations on that? 4, explain jury trials. And 5, define treason. A very rich historical topic that has marched down through our existence as a nation. Is really a hot button issue. What is treason? Particularly as it comes into conflict with being able to speak freely about our feelings about the government, those First Amendment rights we hold so dear. What point does our problem with the government turn into treason? So it's really a very interesting topic. Then 3B, the second part of this week's lessons, explain states' rights. 2, distinguish the guarantee clause. 3, examine the amendment process, and good luck with that. That's never easy for me. Number 4, recognize the supremacy clause. What does it mean? Where is it? What does it mean to our whole constitutional order? And we could talk a lot about that. And then number 5, describe the historical connotations creating the Bill of Rights and the Baptist influence on their creation. So very near and dear to the hearts of many of us here. As a constitutional historian in my training, this will probably be one of my favorite series of lessons that you will encounter this summer. And I love to field questions. If you have anything that you want to ask about any of this, let me know. These are very, very extraordinary times in terms of our Constitution and the branches of government. They are about to come into major conflict. And while I've always believed that conflict makes for a good salad, it makes things work well together when there's a little bit of mixing and mashing and butting of heads, I think that we are at crossroads in the moral life of our nation, and it will be played out in the courts. Of course, I'm talking about the abortion issue. Over the years, in the classes that I've taught, in the classes that I've taken, papers that I've written, research that I've done, I've encountered a term called constitutional crisis. I apologize, I'm at home right now. You're in the Justice dining room with me. You'll hear our cats and dogs and everybody else that's here. But let me say this again. You'll hear the term constitutional crisis. It has been misused over our centuries of existence. It doesn't mean that there is a problem with the Constitution and different issues. A true constitutional crisis is when the Constitution is not followed and or it is misinterpreted, misapplied, ignored altogether. That's when you have a constitutional crisis. There are times when the Constitution is outgrown. That doesn't mean you reinterpret it. It means you amend it. And our founding fathers were smart enough to figure that out. If your interpretation changes with the wind, changes with a fickle moral climate, that's when you have a true constitutional crisis. So I will say this, our document is flawed, like our human nature, but it is a fabulous functioning document that has been used to protect very important individual privileges that we call rights, including the right to life, including the right to speak about your political opinions, including the right to your religious and moral beliefs. So again, I apologize for the dogs. This will go down in perpetuity. But when those rights are ignored by those who interpret the Constitution and apply it, or by lawmakers who choose to ignore the court's rulings, that's when you have a constitutional crisis. I want to say just real quickly, and this is what I was getting to, one of the flaws in our imperfect human document was the 3/5 clause. I always say at the Constitutional Convention you had what Dickens would call the best of times and the worst of times. You have the great compromise where they figured out, as you all have learned, how to put together a bicameral legislative body that represented both state populations and continuity and stability with both houses. Marvelous. But at the same time, you had in that process a hammering out of the 3/5 clause where a portion of our humanity was deemed 3/5 of a person, an affront to God. Slavery has been part of our existence, mankind's existence throughout. I think since man had cities, since man had conquest, we've had that ugly blot on the anthropological landscape. It took a war for us to remove it. The constitutional crisis came when man in part of our country could no longer abide by the Constitution's treatment of human beings. And then we had a war, and in the midst of that war, the Constitution itself was amended. And I can't say that that solved all the problems. So much bloodshed had to take place. The Constitution itself took a battering. The court took a tremendous, maybe perhaps well-deserved battering, but the Constitution in our beloved nation endured. And hopefully, by the grace of God, we will continue to endure. But we are in very, very unique times in my lifetime and in your lifetime. I'm old enough to have witnessed the rendering of the Roe versus Wade opinion in 1973, and I have watched our nation change since that decision was rendered, both morally and, of course, constitutionally. So I don't want to get too far off on this, but as you go through this study of Article 3 in the court system in America, take a second, if you can, to read in the Federalist Papers. You can find this anywhere. If you don't have a copy, you can find this anywhere, Federalist 78. And our beloved Hamilton, who understood human nature and understood what government needed to avoid to function, what the judicial branch needed to avoid to function. You'll get so much insight from reading this. So if you get a chance, Google that and read, again, Federalist number 78. A couple of things before I forget. I'll go on and on about this and you'll just turn it off. But a couple of things I wanted to say to you about your work. On your discussions, wonderful. I am so pleased at how you continue to work through those. And I'm very, very pleased at how courteously and kindly that you respond to one another in reading their discussion posts. I've seen a couple of you who have done the best of the best things. You have seen a fellow student's post. It's great. You approve of it. But you actually say, okay, this is good, but here's something you might want to think about. Look at this material, reread this. That's fine. You're not correcting, you're helping. If we were in a classroom situation, hopefully we could help each other in that same way. And what I think I appreciate the most about those comments is the spirit in which it's done. So you right now, as far as of this recording, you have my vote for the best PO 101 class that I've had. So well done in how you interact with one another and you're completing your assignments. So keep that going. Remember, the best writing is your own. Your thoughts are as valid as anybody else's. If you are corrected on a point of fact or interpretation of some of the material, think that's why you are in college. That you can be corrected, and don't let your feelings be hurt at all. So keep going with that. If like I said this to you the other day, if I correct your writing, if I make any corrections on anything you say, it's because that's what I'm paid to do, and because I want to see you be able to put your best foot forward. And say Miss Justice loves me. That's why she's doing that. So I hope you feel encouraged, and I hope that you will keep going. That this is not drudgery for you. These are excellent recorded lectures by Professor Taylor, and as I say, Professor Taylor and friends. I know that you will enjoy those. Continue to enjoy those. She's very, very in love with her topic, and it shows. So that's great. And keep up the good writing. Again, make sure it's your words, your thoughts, your impressions. Do the best you can. I'm not going to nail you for comma splices, and if I correct you, it's just so that you don't make that mistake in another class where you would be corrected. So keep going, and know that you are an encouragement to one another. You're an encouragement and a blessing to me as a class and individually. Keep those emails coming. If you have any questions about my comments, give me a holler, and I'll be glad, as always, to help you. And do watch and pray in these times. We are living in an extraordinary era, and your generation will be left to pick up the pieces of whatever decisions are made or rendered. So, with what I said a few minutes ago about what's a constitutional crisis, watch things that are going on. The court is about ready to give its decision. And I will say this. I believe that Roe versus Wade in itself represented a constitutional crisis, because in trying to reach a middle ground between a woman's personal autonomy over her body versus the life of an unborn, and trying to reach that middle ground, they created a moral quagmire. And I would say that wherever I taught, and I'm so grateful to have the freedom to say that here. But Roe versus Wade, I think, represented a constitutional crisis. The Constitution stands for the idea that life cannot be removed, cannot be taken away, cannot be denied. Your life, liberty, and your property cannot be denied from you without due process of law. And due process of law really represents a legal hearing where procedure and rules are followed, and not the caprice and the social pressure of non-individuals. So these are very perilous times for our Constitution, for our nation's moral order, for our ability to please God, and the way we conduct ourselves as a people. So watch and pray and watch, and take on the mantle of the next generation that will be running this nation for us. So I really talked more than I meant to. Sorry about that. If you have any questions about this, let me know. If you have any questions about the assignments, continue to send them to me. I enjoy being able to go back and forth with you. If I can't help you, I'll try to direct you to the help desk and any other sources that you may need. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you all have a great week. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.